And because they have this belief, because they have this iman, then taking everything that the rest of mankind is running after, they are still more satisfied. They're still saying Alhamdulillah after losing everything. Why? Because of their true belief, their real understanding who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. This is what gives them tawakkul. They depend on Allah. This is what gives them sabr. They're going through a very, very tough time. How are they holding on to their faith? Because they have a true understanding.
Strong belief in Allah.
From belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are seeing, subhanallah, we are really seeing the power, the strength, the sabr, the patience, the tawakkul that this intangible thing gives us that we call faith. That in the face of all kind of oppression and zulm, how do men, women, and children stand firm? They were still fasting in Ramadan. They were still praying Taraweeh with the lights out. There, you see children still learning Quran hifz. You are seeing little boys reciting the Quran. You are seeing children getting treated in hospital without painkillers. And them reciting the Quran while they are getting treated because they are getting that relief from the Quran. So you are seeing how powerful our faith is, alhamdulillah. If you are holding on to your faith and you lose everything in life, it's something worth holding on to. They know this life is a test. And they know that if they stand firm, if they have patience, and life is going to be over very soon for everyone. It's very short. It passes away in the blink of an eye. Even though you're young right now and it seems like it's a very long life, no, it's not. But if we hold on to our faith, then we know we have passed the test, inshallah. So they are already seeing Jannah. It's like they're just waiting to enter there, inshallah. And that's what we're praying for them. But people whose creed, whose Aqeedah, whose faith in God, they don't understand who God is. So they say, who has done this to our gods? And they are not understanding the irony of their sentence, their question. Like, seriously, if this was God, could somebody have broken it? So now people are questioning. Imagine this conversation. People have returned from that event probably, and the big statue is there. All the little statues are broken, and these are the conversations that are happening. قالوا سمعنا فتى يذكرهم يقال له إبراهيم. Others replied, we heard a youth, he was called Ibrahim, talking about them. So now what's happening? It's like investigation happening. You know, when we have an event anywhere, then people get together and they start putting two and two together, and an investigation has now been rolled out. قالوا فأتوا به على أعين الناس لعلهم يشهدون. They said, then bring him here before the eyes of the people, meaning bring him here in front of all of us. So now it's a community investigation that's happening, and they are hunting for him, and they want him brought out in front of everybody. Why? Because they all want to ask him, they all want to question him, they're all mad at him, they're really angry. So they bring him, and then the investigation, the questioning is started. قالوا أأنت فعلت هذا بآلهتنا يا إبراهيم. When Ibrahim AS came, they asked, oh Ibrahim, are you the one who has done this to our gods? And again, do you see the irony? Do you see one young boy, because of his understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's not a prophet yet, he's a young boy, but he can still see through things, he can still analyze situations, he can still critically analyze belief system of the entire community. And they don't even understand how ridiculous, how ironic this question is.
I just want to say, mainly this is because there was an investigation, and then it turned out that the human brain by people is only used like up to 10%. And the really genius people like Einstein and stuff, they use like 10-12%. So like if someone has someone uses their brain like at high percent, like for example, probably Ibrahim AS did it, they can like see through things and do many great things. So we should use our brain.
Okay, but I want you to understand one other thing. Yes, we do have people who have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them more ability, like they can be smarter in certain subjects. But does that mean that somebody who is smarter in one subject than the rest of the people, does it mean that he will also realize the truth about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the truth about this universe, the truth about why is he here? Does that also happen automatically? What do you guys think? No. Why? So my question, if I put it another way, why did Einstein not become a Muslim?
I think when people are like clever academically, and I guess in the example of Einstein, he was recognized so much by people on Earth, and maybe those worldly pleasures get to your head a little bit, and you don't realize that there's more to life than that.
I think that's a smart answer. Anything else?
Stephen Hawking, who is like a really, really smart man, was the probably one of the biggest anti-religion, anti-God, like atheists out there. So even though he was really smart about what he does, like physics and discovering things about space,
Yeah.
he was probably as far as it gets. Like he was at the end of the spectrum of atheism.
Yeah, exactly. A very good example.
You don't have to be. So the reason why most people may not have believed in God, believed in Allah, is because you don't have to have a high IQ, or you don't have to be so-called smart to believe in God. You just have to use common sense.
I think all are very good answers. I want you to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given Ibrahim Islam rushd, guidance. So if we go back to the very first ayat we had read, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدَهُ. We had given Ibrahim his rushd. So it's that kind of wisdom, that guidance in which you don't necessarily need a high IQ. Otherwise, everybody with a high IQ would have knowledge that there has to be a God behind this creation. The examples that you guys have given, Stephen Hawking and Einstein and all of these scientists, even today you will find many or even most of the scientists are atheists or lean toward atheistic beliefs. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives hidayah, his guidance. It's a very special gift. He gives it to those who seek it, who are looking for it. So if you are searching for the truth, Allah will show you the truth of La ilaha illallah, that there is only one God and that there is a God. But if you're not interested, it's such a gift, it's such a precious gift, this guidance, this hidayat from Allah, that you can't just take it for granted. You have to ask for it. Do we ask for it every day? Do we ask for hidayah every day? Who asks? No? I think we do. We ask at least 17 times a day if we are praying. Are you getting my meaning? Who's getting my meaning?
Yes.
When are we asking for it?
While we recite Surah and Fatiha.
Yes. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us, and we are asking for it when we say ihdina siratal mustaqim. Allah, show me siratal mustaqim, guide me to it. Guide me to that lifestyle where the first thing I'm recognizing is yes, I have a creator. This universe has a creator. And that I should lead my lifestyle like he wants me to lead it, like the prophets have led. So they are now investigating. They're asking him. What is his reply? قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا فاسألوهم إن كانوا ينطقون. He replied, surely someone has done it, the chief of them. That is, ask them if they can speak. So what is he trying to make them realize?
That their gods are not able to do anything.
Yantiqun. So he is implying two things. Number one, the chief or the biggest idol that's still standing is capable of moving and destroying the smaller statues. That's one thing he's implying. The second thing he's implying, he's saying, ask them. So in kanu yantiqun, the ability to speak. So he's telling them that if this is what you are seeing, then this bigger God should have the capacity, the ability to move and to destroy the younger ones, should he not? A God should have that capability, and all of them should be able to speak. Like a God can't be speechless. A God can't be that helpless that he can't move. So he's making them think about the attributes of God. What happens? Immediately, فَرَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ فَقَالُوا إِنَّكُمْ أَنْتُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Thereupon they turn to search their own consciences. Sometimes when you tell somebody the truth, there is a moment in which that person does understand, even if it's that acknowledgement within their own selves. That what I had been saying was wrong, and what this person is saying is the truth. Are you not seeing that around the world today? You are seeing that there are so many people in the world today who, when they have been presented with the truth, they are actually on the streets demonstrating. They are actually demonstrating in the universities and colleges because they have realized what the truth is and what were the lies that they were being fed for so long. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there are so many people who do acknowledge the truth, and yet there are others others who have their worldly benefits tied up in that lie. So because of that lie, due to which they have this power, this authority in this world, they will belie the truth. They will not admit. So you see this kind of thing in mankind all the time. Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So thereupon they turn to search their own consciences. It's a moment of introspection when you realize, no, this is the right thing. And they said to themselves, surely you yourselves are the wrongdoers. So they did acknowledge that he was speaking the truth. They did acknowledge, even if they didn't say it out loud to him, in their hearts, they knew that he's telling the truth. What happened then? ثم نكسوا على رؤوسهم لقد علمت ما هؤلاء ينطقون. Confounded as they were, lowering their heads, they said, you know fully well that they cannot speak. What do we understand? People are so used to the lies that they are being told, the way things get done in the world, what they should believe, how they should live, what is the truth, what is the falsehood, that when you tell them something that's really out of the box, many of them can't change themselves. Many of them don't want to change themselves. Today, we see that because of social media, the truth has been exposed to the entire world about who the wrongdoers are, who are the ones who are being wrong. And then we are seeing people who have a conscience protesting against those wrongs. But we also see those who have their worldly benefits tied with a lie, that they put their conscience to sleep. They can't afford to side with the truth. They can't afford to speak the truth. So they continue with that lie. So this is what these people decide. They said, they can't speak. And even this sentence is so ironic. They are not realizing the irony that you think that these are gods and they can't speak. They say that. قَالَ فَتَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَنفَعُكُمْ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَضُرُّكُمْ. At this, Ibrahim AS said, do you then worship these gods instead of Allah, who can neither benefit nor harm you? This is the punchline that he delivers. You yourself are admitting that they can't speak. You yourself are admitting that they can't defend themselves. So a God who can't defend himself, do you think he's going to defend you? He can, or he can benefit you? Then he says, أُفِّل لَكُمْ وَلِمَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Shame on you and on those gods that you worship besides Allah. Have you no sense at all? So now he's appealing to their sense of intellect. Like, use your aql. قَالُوا حَرِّقُوهُ وَانصُرُوا آلِهَتَكُمْ in kuntum fa'ilin. They cried, burn him alive and avenge your gods if you want to take any action. What do we realize? When you question people and they cannot face the truth and they have no evidence to support their belief, when they have no rationale for what they are doing, why they are doing, what do they resort to? They resort to violence. They resort to more wrongdoing. They resort to suppression because they want to suppress any free thinking, any critical thinking, anyone who questions the status quo. He has questioned the status quo. So what do they decide? They decide burn him. And it is said that everybody was so mad at him. Everybody was so mad because he's made them realize, and in their own selves they have acknowledged that he's speaking the truth, but they are determined to not change their ways. It is said that they went far and wide looking for fuel. What was the fuel? Because they wanted to burn him. So they are looking for wood. And they made a huge fire. And it was so huge that once it started burning, they couldn't even go near it to throw him in. So it is said that they actually brought catapult because the fire was burning so high and hot. They put him in a catapult and they threw him. They catapulted it into the fire. And they thought, be done with it. This voice that is disagreeing with what we are saying, that says La ilaha illallah, burn him to death. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us his power. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the fire. What happens now? قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. When they threw him into the fire, we commanded, O fire, be cool, become cool and comfortable for Ibrahim. What has happened here? The laws of nature have changed. What is the nature of the fire? What does fire do? Does it bring comfort?
Burns and it hurts.
It burns. But we forget who is the creator of the nature and the laws that people have just discovered, is the ultimate power, who has created them, who controls them. So when and if he wills, he can turn that fire, he can change the nature of that fire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that fire coolness and comfort for Ibrahim. Why did he do that? Allah ta'ala tells us, وَأَرَادُوا بِهِ كَيْدًا فَجَعَلْنَاهُمُ الْأَخْسَرِينَ. Allah Ta'ala tells us why. They sought to harm him. They plotted and planned against him, but we made them the big losers. Learning outcome of the day. Sometimes we have very big tests in life, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us. When we say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah is going to test us, to show us, to bring evidence for us or against us on the day we stand in the court before him on the day of judgment. So our deeds are the evidence for us or against us that we will bring with us when we stand before him on the day of Qiyamah for accountability. So the test has to be in place in order for us to make the right or wrong choices. But because he wants us to make the right choices, he has given us the Quran, in which he has told us from the very beginning who are our role models. Adam alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, all the prophets, all the truthful ones, all the salihin, the righteous ones. And who our enemy is, the shaitan and all of those who follow him from the jinn and mankind, so that we can make the right choices. And in the end, it is those who oppose the creator of the heavens and the earth and his prophets who are going to be al-akhsarin, the biggest losers. They may get a little bit of dunya, but they are not going to get the akhirah. They are not going into Jannah. So we need to hold on to that and have sabr and do the right thing. Make the right choices, inshallah. May Allah give us that tawfiq. I'm going to end with a beautiful story. I don't know if the story is true. You will find it in some tafasir. But the learning outcome behind that story is very, very important and very relevant to us. It is said when the fire was burning high and Ibrahim AS was being put into that catapult and people were celebrating, they were jubilant that we are going to burn this boy who says La ilaha illallah to the ground. There was a tiny bird, and that little bird flying over was bringing like a little drop of water in its tiny little beak, and he was dropping that drop of water onto the fire, and it would go back and it would bring a tiny drop of water and put it on the fire. And the other birds started mocking it, and they said, look at the fire, it's so big, it's so huge, they have to create a catapult, they can't go near him to throw him into it. They're going to throw him from a distance because it's so huge. Look at yourself. Look at your capacity. Look at the tiny drop of water. Are you going to put out the fire? What are you doing? And the bird said, no, I know I can't put out that fire, but this little drop of water is the best that I can do. And this is going to be my ma'azrat. This is going to be my excuse. This is going to be what I bring to Allah on the day I stand before him. That Allah, I did my best. I did my best to do the right thing. So, learning outcome. Life is tough. Everybody is going to be tested. Muslim and kafir together. Those people were also being tested. They chose the wrong thing. They made the wrong choice. Allah Ta'ala says they became al-akhsarin, the biggest losers. What is our role? We do the right thing. And who tells us the right and wrong? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we must learn the Quran. We must learn the Sunnah, because we are being tested every second. In order to make a choice, we should know what's right, what's wrong. And then we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we do this dua, ihdina siratal mustaqeen, all day long, several times a day. And it's a plural. So we are asking not only for ourselves, but for everybody. Allah ta'ala guide all of us so that we get into Jannah, we make the right choices. And then when we see oppression, when we see zulm, we need to become like that tiny little bird. We need to do our best. So today, when we see the world doing so much zulm around us, we need to raise our voice. We need to bring our drop of water. And we have learned so many things about how to strategize when we do dawah from Ibrahim AS. So I'm going to end here.
I think it's really important for us to understand how, like, the people knew the truth, but they still weren't ready to and prepared to accept it. And it's because of their ignorance that they failed to overcome the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave. So we should not be ignorant.
Yes. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
I found it interesting how the people who tried to throw Ibrahim into the fire, how they because they didn't have any sort of evidence for their for worshipping their idols, they didn't have any like reasonable like valid reason, they got even more angry. And just in normal life I sometimes feel that as well. So if I'm arguing for something which is pointless, which doesn't make sense, then I get even more angry when I know that
Yeah.
so it's important to remember these and know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think it's also something for us to learn from. Like, this is what Shaitan does to us, right? He doesn't, and I'm talking about us sometimes. Sometimes when we are presented with the truth, and we don't have any reason not to accept it, and we are reacting in a very angry way. So we need to step back and consider, is this my ego that's stopping me? Is this Shaitan who is misleading me? Right? How he had misled those people. Yeah, I think that's a very, very smart point to consider.
I really enjoyed the class today, but I had a question. So I've heard of the scrolls of Abraham, and I was like, because we have an RE GCSE, so we were learning about all the holy books. So there is the Bible, the Torah, then there's the Zabur of David, and then I came across the scrolls of Abraham, but then I'd never actually heard of them before. So my question was, do they still remain? And is there any example of the scrolls of Abraham in the Quran?
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does talk about Suhufi Ibrahim wa Musa. Suhuf means like the books, or maybe it also can mean the scrolls. I will look it up, inshallah.
I was going to say, so I also learn about these scrolls, but like I'm not going to say that the textbook that they teach us is the most accurate representation, because it's not. But I've been taught that they're no longer around. Apparently they're lost. But anyway, I was going to say I really like the lesson because I think it shows a lot about the role of Ibrahim AS in general, and like the importance of not just following the thinking of people around you just because, like, just for the sake of it and to fit in, just having that strength of character to think differently, because at the end of the day it's for you, like yourself, it's not for anyone else.
Yeah, and it's tough being, the one who is going against the flow. He's a teenage rebel, like Ibrahim alayhis salam. He rebelled against everyone, and he did it with wisdom. He did it with strategy. He wasn't like reactive, but he stood his ground. And we see that strength comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think when you talk about earlier books, we know that the earlier books are no longer authentic today. I think when we really want to learn the true history, we turn to the Quran. When we really want authentic information, we turn to the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken it as his responsibility to preserve the message, because it's the last message. There's no more messages coming, no more prophets after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken it upon himself, preserve this message. So the most authentic book that we have is the Quran. And after that, we have the books of Ahadith, Sahih Muslim and Sahih Bukhari from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So anything that aligns with the Quran, we can take that. And if it's contrary to the Quran, then we know that it's not authentic. It's kind of an overarching general rule.
I find it interesting and like a bit weird that the people tried so hard to make it a really bad punishment for Prophet Ibrahim AS. Like it's almost like they were trying to, like, rather than think about like, is he right?
Yeah, I want you to understand that faiths are tied to a lot of power and authority, right? So imagine, for example, the Pope. I'm just giving you the example of someone who represents like the head of millions of people who are following a certain faith. So can you imagine the authority and the power that a Pope has? I'm just using him as an example. Now imagine if he were to suddenly say that all of what I have and we and our forefathers have been teaching has not been based on truth. Do you think he would be able to acknowledge that, say that? What would he lose if he were to say that? What would he lose?
Nobody would trust him anymore, and he would just be like kind of like an evil sort of character.
But imagine the power that he has in the world today. Imagine the money, the authority, the respect. Has anybody been to the Vatican?
Yes, I've been there.
What is the Vatican? Does everybody know that it is considered a state in its own self? It's in Rome.
It's a country.
But it's a country. Yeah, okay, Jazakallah. And imagine the power and the authority. Have you seen the security, the police everywhere, right? The money, the wealth. So imagine these people, imagine what happens in synagogues and churches and in the Hindu mandars, the temples. It's not easy letting go of all that wealth and power and authority in the world and acknowledge the truth. It takes a special kind of someone to do that.
I heard the bird story, and from that I got that we should like do whatever we can. The bird had a single drop of water, then try to extinguish a fire. We should do whatever we can, even though we don't have a lot of power and authority. Even if we don't, like even a small good deed counts. Like everything that something everybody can relate to is if you're walking through a park or something and you see like a wrapper on the ground or a bag on the ground. We should just pick it up and throw it in the garbage. Yes, a lot of people think that what's one piece of plastic gonna do to the earth? Everybody else picks it up. What's one gonna do?
Yeah.
So we should think like how the bird got a single drop.
Yeah.
Even like a small thing matters.
I think we need to rephrase that sentence that you said earlier. Like we don't have power. We do. It may not be as much as another person, but everybody has the power to do something. And if we all do our little bit, it all rolls up into something important. And we are seeing this in the world, right? The power of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil munkar. The power that Allah has given all of us to enjoin the good and to stop the evil. Because if we don't do it, then what happens? Then bullies become bigger and bigger bullies until they just hold the whole world hostage. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if we put out those little fires early on, then things don't get so rough in the end.
I think it's very weird how the people never thought, why can't the gods, the idols, like protect themselves?
Yeah, they did think about it, like they just couldn't acknowledge. They couldn't take the next step of acknowledging the truth, right? And why do you think that? And what did you understand? Why did you?
I think they were ignorant. They just didn't want to believe.
Yeah, and also in addition to being ignorant, what else were they? What else was the problem?
They just thought, well, how could this little kid know like which God we should believe? And our forefathers were believing this.
Okay, yeah, that could also be one reason, like the arrogance. But also because we just discussed, like sometimes people don't want to give up their worldly power and authority that they may have to give up if they believe and acknowledge the truth, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to be like our father Ibrahim AS, to walk the path of Islam like he did. And may he hold us steadfast, give us sabr. May he give us the real understanding, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of you, of who you are, your power, your strength. May give us this tawakkul. And iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een, ihdinas siratal mustaqim. It's only you that we worship, only you we ask for help. So guide us to the straight path, take us to Jannah, and make us successful in the test of this life, inshallah. Make us like that little bird, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil munkar. Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.